shiny. Hopefully it still works. So that's my newer iwata. That's my much older one. I don't know if you can see, it's lost all its shine inside. Good evening, good evening. Hello, hello. I don't know why I waved. Then I've got my Pride and Joy. That's special occasions only. And then I've got my budget Spa Max. I probably won't use all those tonight. I just wanted to give them a nice bit of a tart up. How is everyone? Is everyone alright? So we have a Formula 1 shell. So I would say that's really fiddly, but I've been doing something a bit smaller scale. Give you an idea of the size of it. And then it's got his brother. So I've been doing those this weekend. And then a bit of a head scratch, which was the Marmite. I was really pleased with the lights and grills on this. You can't really see the grills, but I changed the scale and the headlights. So I reckon that would make a good real life shell. Obviously that's iconic, but not in this scale. That's tiny. And I got all the shading and bits and bobs. These two were, I spent longer on these two than, well, it's about 16 hours actually. I'm very proud of them. Although they are copies. Thank you, Scott. So back to a better scale. I say better, easier. So I've got to do grills, try and get a grill up into the airbox, and I spent a lot of time trying to make sure I got enough liquid mask into that fin, and I'm not looking forward trying to get that out. So we'll see if it peels nicely, or if it's the headache I think it's going to be. So I'm a bit, you know, like when you do 12th scale shells and you've got the rear fins. I think this could be on that level of pain. I hope not, because I put way more in there. I even got an old brush and brushed it in there because I couldn't get it to, because it's such a small gap. I then got to get paint in there as well. So we will see. But anyway, we're going to start. I've peeled the bits I'm doing first, which obviously the darker colours. So you go darker through to lighter. So we're starting off with black. So I've got the cab to do. Sorry, cockpit. And then work our way round, and then we can start. So it's a white nose into neon purple and iridescent purple, and then a pink rear, and then chrome pinstripes. And then a chrome pinstripe around the outside of this black section. So how is everyone? See, I think, so what's that, Scott? You've been... there's always time to paint or prep. The majority of this is prep work. It's getting the mask dry, the design drawn, I actually had today off work, so I've been, because it's the last 2 days my kids have got off school, so I've had them today. I'm back to work tomorrow, so while they were doing their homework I was drawing that. So I was like doing all this, and I was like, oh yeah, that's how you do that. Yes, yes, yes. I was trying to help them with their maths while I was doing this, so probably not the best thing to do. Anyway, we shall start. I reckon there's probably an hour and a half here in paint. I think. I never get it right. I always get it drastically wrong. So I'm just going to say an hour and a half. So hex pattern, which I cut myself on my cutter. Camera's clear tonight, I think. 18 people watching. I'm watching my mouth. So this is cut out of low tack masking sheets, and I think I need to buy a new blade again because it's been fouling. So I'll get that in there. See, the beauty is because it's flexible, I can bend it round shapes. I don't think you can really see it in there. There they are. So hopefully the trick is to build it up slowly. Don't slam it with paint because it'll go under the, because it's such a small mesh, it'll go under it. Now I'm not going to dry that with well, we'll hit it with a hairdryer, but from a distance. Scott, work is closed as of Wednesday afternoon. So a little bit worried. It's sort of family business. November and December in retail for us is very important. It's the time of year we make our money. These 2 months coming up will set the business for the next 6 or 7 months. So, I mean, after Boris announced it on Saturday, today, let's try and put this into perspective. We took today what would take us 4 days to take last week, if that makes sense. So we've done 4 days money in 1 day today. So it's a bit crushing because sort of worried what state. I won't get into it too much, but it's yeah, it could be this could be a better time of year for us. Yeah, it is what it is. It's the same for everybody else, but yeah, it's not best, not good. Anyway, let's just crack on before I start crying. Right, so that should dry in there now. So that hex should I don't know if you can see that if I put my finger behind it. No, I'll give up. You can't see that. It's too small. Too small. Oh, they are just about. And I used to think that was really tricky to do. So now it's had a bit of heat on it, it's warped it slightly, but I should be able to get a bit more out of this. So it's making it look square as well. There's no point having it on there and it being wonky. My hands are clean, by the way. There's a bit of paint on them, but I keep forgetting to buy gloves, and now got to the point where I'm not bothered. So same process again, lightly build the coat up. To cut these little hex panels out on my cutter, actual cutting is about 30 minutes ago, a panel. You have to put the cutter on its slowest speed. And I'm not the best computer wise, so it's taken me a long time to get the best out of it. Always learning. And it took me a long time to get a scale of hex that I was happy with. You see some, and they've got hex pattern on, but they look like the 20p pieces. They look terrible. So, and that's just me being a fussy. Right. I also like to edge it, so I go around the outside of the hex pattern now. I won't do it in the airbox because I can't get in there. So I always get a thing called dry tip. So I always, if you see me ever so often, I'll be picking the dry paint off the tip. If you let it build up, you get a very inconsistent spray, and it will get bigger and bigger and rubbisher and worse. You see some of these air boxes, and they don't put this sort of black edge around them, and so they just go from the white backing straight into the next colour, and I don't think they look right. So I like to put a black edge around it. Yes, I'm getting more fussy. There, so you can see I've gone around the outside of the edges now. It's very tricky to show because these are so small and they're on a weird angle. Yeah. I'm spraying at a very low PSI. On the older version shells, they used to give you like more like, I think the Protoform, they give you like a moulded steering wheel, so you can put all like dots to give like the dials on the dash, but they don't give it to you on this Montec. So a complete brain fade then. So I'm now going to use that hex pattern again. Now I need to try and match up side to side. Scott, have you ever heard of a DJ called Lost Frequencies? I think he's from Belgium. It's worth a listen. Obviously I can't play music like I want to because of copyrights. Yeah, that's lined up. First go. Thing is, if you print these in too big a section, they become hard. I mean, like I've got argument's sake, there's a much larger one, but you then can't get that into there. So I much prefer doing a smaller scale and then match it up. Yeah, Scott, it's called Lost Frequency. He smiles a lot, and it's sort of happy music, but it's still dance. Right, so I'm not doing any more hex panel. That took me a very long time to get a scale I was happy with, because I sort of ripped it off of Google. Just typed in hex panels, hex pattern, and then you've got to put it through your cutter and get it to look right and get the scale right, and it's a bit of a mission. There's a larger one here, so there's my stars. I bought those, and then that's a larger one as well. So I've spent many hours staring at a printer cutter. Very fun. Yes, Scott, that's what I'm listening to at the moment. Those of you that have not watched me before, I used to put YouTube on in the background and have some music, because obviously this is pretty boring. And then I could never load anything up onto YouTube, and Facebook would always complain as well. So I then bought myself some headphones and became as boring as every other painter. So that's just knackered the... I won't do that. I was going to do it so I could see what I'm doing, but that's why the screen's better, because I haven't got any bright white on the screen. Blimey, I'm getting notifications whacking through the computer in my headphones and then my phone as well. Ouch. I'll look at them later. Actually, might be the wife. No, all good. Right, now it's a case of getting, so the bit of the tip now dried, so I'll just get that off. So I've now got to try and get into that. Went better than I thought. So where have I got? I know Scott's in America. Is anyone else watching further away? it's probably a bit too early for the other foreign countries. I jokingly call this the world headquarters, but it's very humbling to how many different countries this goes out to watch me cut around and paint. Any questions, please ask. So this hex panel there now, if you can just about make it out, that'll be like ghosted into, well, it's not ghosted, but you'll see that on the bonnet. Sorry, it's not a bonnet, is it? The nose, once everything else comes up. Right, she's my old Sparmax. So I'm very lucky I can have 2 or 3 brushes on the go at once. But it then means I've got a lot more to clean. Right, so that's that done. That's subtle enough because you shouldn't. That's in the black, so you shouldn't really see that till you get quite close. This will be at the front of the grid anyway. Sorry, it's an absolutely banging tune on at the moment. It's a remix of Faithless. That's absolutely wicked. I really do miss not being able to thump that out in the show. I will do later, but I can't do it now when I've got this on. Which makes great viewing, I know. Right, so now the middle section. Hello, Mark. Not stuck at work then, that's good. So I've got to let it cool down after you hit it with a hairdryer because the liquid mask becomes very stretchy and hard to peel. So I can sort of feel how warm it is. Right, tweezers. Now I've got 2 different styles of tweezers. This is boring, isn't it? I've got longer ones and I've got shorter ones. Both really sharp. Trust me, they do that in your knee as well when you drop them. So every so often I get the pair of pliers and just make them nice and sharp. Well, I point them back in again because they go a bit blunt. So now it's a case of seeing, he says, that's better. where my cut lines are. Don't start at the point, start about 10mm back, pick it, then pull it to the point, otherwise you disturb the liquid mask on the bit that everyone looks at. And it's a case of just going round, and so that's alright, I can peel that easy. And repeating that process. But you need good tweezers for this, and patience. I must admit, painting has taught me a lot of patience. When I first started, I was like, I need it done, I need it finished, and it has taught me to calm down a lot. Not to the point where I can leave shells for days and days, but I can leave it overnight now. Like the little Reinhard shells I did, I would have carried on and ruined them just from sheer stubbornness of wanting them finished, and kind of quite proud of myself to put them down and come back to them the next day. So I'm just working out where this goes. So this goes round. Right. I didn't want to pick out the wrong bit. Let's just drag out a bit I didn't want to. Just think yourself lucky I didn't do the cutting on camera as well, because that'd be even more boring. But cutting is the bit that everyone can paint, but not everyone can cut, and the cutting is what, if you can cut and if you can draw a nice design but cut it badly, it's going to look rubbish. If you can draw well and cut well, your designs will look 10 times better. Cutting is the most important bit. I find it very calming, which is a very odd thing to say. You sit there with a craft knife just staring at points. I've normally got the football on, so I can just listen to it. This hobby has kind of ruined me watching TV. So I end up listening to the radio now more than anything else, because you can't keep looking up to see what's on. So although I've got all the football channels, I still listen to it on the radio more than I watch it. I know Leicester and Leeds are playing at the moment. If I have that on the radio in the background, then they'll have an absolute shit fit, the copyrights. Liquid mask, at least two. I use, that's full of mask constantly. I never empty it, so as long as the lid's on. Look, still look. And I've got a bit of old grate in there to try and get the lumps, because what I do is I pour it onto that, then any lumps kind of hit it. So that's always got liquid mask in it. That's got a 1mm tip, and for this shell I did two and a half coats. And for some reason I think the latest batch of Bitty I've got, it's, to me it feels different. It definitely smells different. It doesn't smell of old feet. and it seems to dry better, but it's lumpy. And it dries with a much more of a gloss to it. Whereas the older stuff I had a sort of matte finish to it and smelt of old feet. This doesn't smell, and it dries quicker, which is a bonus. Other than that, it seems as good. It's as good. I mean, I won't use anything else. I'm not sponsored. I can say that because I like it. No one's asked me to say it. Not that anyone would listen to me anyway. So let's not get ahead of myself. Right, so that's the tricky bit done for this side. See, because it's with the pinstripe, you have to pick out. Up to now, what I used to start again, I used to start off and I would pick all the pinstripes out and do them first. But where I'm now using this rich paint mirror paint, you have to do it last because it doesn't like the liquid mask because it's solvent, and solvents don't work very well with bitty. So I used to pick it all out, spray that first, and it made life a lot easier. This way round, I've got to pick around all the pinstripes on both sides, so it's twice as much work, and then do the pins last. But it's worth it because it gives you a better finish, but it's a lot more work because you're having to, rather than just pick it all out and spray it, you've got to pick around both sides. So it's a bit trickier, if that makes sense. Right, so I promise I won't talk too much. So that section there, which is now clear, is going to be iridescent purple around the outer edges, and then neon purple. So two different purples, which gives a nice effect. So the darker one first around the outer edges, and then the brighter one for the pop in the middle, if that makes sense. I might also do some patterns in the. I might do some super flicky technique. I haven't decided yet. Or should I do that first? Have I got? Oh, I've got black. I might as well do it now. So the super flicky technique. Now this took me a long time to figure out because I used to spend ages with. Over here. It's like I own an art shop. So you have all these brushes and you'd sort of load the brush up and flick the brush. And then I was wondering, I was like, how come I can't get a nice blob like some of the other painters, or my hero worship painters, like my hero worship painter is TD, the Japanese master. And I was looking at his and I was like, my blobs are nothing like his. I was using his as reference. And then for one day I just sort of stuck my finger in the paint and then went like that. And I got these wicked blobs. And it gives you like a snail trail as well. You can see where the blobs go. So always make sure you go the same way. See, now it looks like it's hit by a seagull that's been eating blackjacks. And you get a black finger. But I'd spend ages with old paintbrushes and it basically atomized, and you would just get like this like ghost farts almost. So you just get black fingers now. So the only problem is though they're a bit wetter, so you've got to dry them. Because next thing you know, you stick some paint over them and they explode because they're still wet. So my desk is a pallet, and this is the shelving unit. So that's a pallet. So I keep my hairdryer under the pallet. You know, the pallet blocks. It's one there, and one there, and everything else is screwed. And then this is old racing primer felt. So touching cloth. So it's the closest I'm going to get to racing for a while. Well, at least on carpet. I'm waiting to hear what happens. I'm not going to get all political, but I can't see racing happening, but we'll see. I definitely wouldn't be going indoors anyway, I know that much. Kind of kitted myself out for the winter. I'm just about to buy some winter boots. And then I'm all set, but then the racing gets stopped. Right. Mini rant. So I'm going to go back to my Iwata Eclipse, my better one. This was bought new in August. So it probably only had, it's probably only had 50 or 60 paint jobs through it. This one has had like 500, I reckon I've done. So if you're going to buy a brush, one of these. If you can't afford one of these, the Sparmax Max 3 is very good. I still use that for white. And then if you're fitting flush, these are the best. This is just poetry. But I'm not going to use this tonight. For some reason with that one I get dry tip, and it's much more frustrating than using the Iwatas. So I use that for special occasions. That was given to me as a present, so that's very sentimental with that as well. So a little bit of cleaner, old kid's paintbrush, wiggle it about a bit, loosen up the paint, then finger over the end and bog wash it. Now there's no point wasting tons and tons of cleaner, and then I have a spit cup, which is an old cut off bottom of a 2 litre bottle of Coke. And another little bit of swig of cleaner. And basically repeat this until the water is, the cleaner is clear. You'll notice when you bug wash it, and you think you've got it clean, and you would just be shocked where it comes from. You're like, oh, that's nice and clean. And you stick your finger over the end, bang, and it's black again. So a little bit of cleaner. I suggest you find these as well, these little squidgy bottles. I pour my cleaner into those, and it just makes it gives, because it's got a little tip to it, it also acts as a cleaning, gives it a bit of pressure. So finger back over the end. Wiggle it about and spray it through a bit and then drop it off. And then that's a case of repeating that process as much as you change your colours. But with the black you need to do it more. Black paint's much, see there's still a tiny bit. It's just the back of the cup, it's just, that'll upset whatever colour goes through it next, because the black will just, see, it's turned the water, the cleaner completely black. So tissue. Right, that's clear. Right, so iridescent I said, didn't I? I have a marble or an old top deck screw in each bottle of paint so you can hear it. Now the iridescent doesn't shade very nicely, so I'm going to struggle with this. Take the cap off. Don't stab yourself, don't drop it, because that's sharp and you'll knacker your brush. Then spray it onto a surface to make sure there's no black in there. That's right. Because there's nothing worse than starting straight away and blob, you've got some dead old paint in it. And that's just being brave and picking a point to start. So let's go easy. So don't start where you want it to start, if that makes sense. Start on the on the liquid mask. Oh, my beard looks nice. And then just drag it. I always have my elbow grounded on the worktop. I used to do it like this, standing, and it's like you can never get a nice sharp line. And I found now if I ground the two items, as in the elbow and the shell, I can get a much nicer line. I try and just do straight lines. I don't try and go around corners and back on myself. So the paint started to build up on the tip, so fingers, pick it off. But I'm barely drawing any paint out, I'm literally just running it on a quarter throttle, so to speak. Trigger. It's very difficult to try and sound interesting and paint at the same time. I bet most of you got me on mute. And normally I put a sheet of A4 paper behind me so I can see what I'm doing. So you can see how you're building the paint levels up. When I did that, it flared up the camera, so I won't do that tonight. Tiny bit of pinstripe peeled up. Obviously you don't want to use your fingers because you'll leave fingerprints in the paint, so at the end of the paintbrush. The amount of times you see someone's paint job and you can see a big old fingerprint in the shading. I sound really fussy and I'm not, I promise you, I'm not. I'm probably the least technical painter. I like to make things look shiny and pretty. I know some much more technically gifted painters. I'm like, oh, that looks nice. I'd like to think I'm quite a reliable painter. If you need it for a certain date, I will make sure I get it done, within reason. Fussy George, yeah. No, I don't think that'll take on really. You see how kept my beard is? Look, I'm not very fussy. So this iridescent is basically the darker shading, and then we're going to put the lighter colour in. I'm just thinking if I should put some pattern into it. I don't want to put too much in it and make it look like it's been thrown up on. Less is more, that's my mantra. No, I think there's enough there, because if you can see all these bits that are clear, suddenly they're going to be a much brighter colour in a minute, and so this will all become the darker shading. So this is that's enough. That's enough, George. Stop it. Right. And there is no reason throwing good paint away. So put it back in. Because all you'll do is you'll just waste more cleaner trying to get it all out. So put the cap back on, because the next thing you'll harpoon yourself. Yep, I said I'd get the shell done. I shall get the shell done. I've got probably 4 or 5 more orders. Rather than take a rest, I'm going to start to learn crash helmet painting. The British touring car driver Jake Hill, who I know, is going to send me some detailed pictures of his racing crash helmet, and I'm going to try and copy it. I've got his blessing. This will be on an old crappy crash helmet someone's given me, but I just want to see if I can do it. Been watching lots of YouTube videos on painting crash helmets, and going to give it a proper go. I had a go at one a while ago, but I want to have another. I want to have a more measured go at it. So I'm going to try and turn a positive out of. I won't say a fuck up. I'm going to say a negative. Right, so it doesn't take as much cleaning when it's a lighter colour. It's just the blacks are pain when it comes to doing that. Right, so we've done the iridescent. Now we're going to use the neon. Obviously my paint's been sitting around for a bit. If you see, I've got all my paint around the outside of the... That's 2 rows deep. And then there's some over here. And there's some here. And there's a big box over there. I should be taking it indoors soon, as the weather temperature starts to change. So my wife will enjoy that, a nice box of paint in the living room. Right, so this is a brighter colour now, so this should make the iridescent into like a shade, hopefully. I was very tempted to put some pattern in it, but I'm not going to, because I've already got the black and flick. I have to be very careful to get because the cab is indented into the, cockpit is indented in. I've got to make sure I spray around the outside, because the paint just naturally wants to run off. So you've got to do a couple of different angles, and don't load it up too much. Build the paint up slowly. I mean, not that it'll run, but it'll just take hours to dry. or it won't adhere to the shell because it will dry as a film rather than on the surface of the Lexan. Now I'm pleased I didn't do any more. Right, and then it's just making sure that I've not missed any bits. I don't want to build it up too heavy because you'll dull the brightness when you do the backing. So it's just a case of lightly building up. And making sure I've got everywhere. There's a bit just in there. Daniel, when you say morning, it's nearly 9:30 here in the evening. What time is it? You're in Australia, aren't you? Or have I got that wrong? Otherwise you're well lazy and got up well late. Is Australia? That's what I thought. So that's Australia, America, and somewhere near Newcastle or Sunderland. Ouch! Just got home from work at 5:25. Ooh. What time do you have to be up? Or is that now you're done for the day? So I'm just calling the Lexan back down. If you don't call the Lexan back down, the liquid mask it won't peel. It's too hot. Always check by spraying your paint. One, you've got the right colour, and two, that it's working. But mostly to make sure it's the right colour. Oh, I see. You work in a casino, yes. Anyone win big tonight? The trick to get a nice bright colour is not to put too much paint on, because then when you back it with the white will bounce it more, if that makes sense. You put the colour on too thick, it won't be vibrant. So it's learning how much to get away with, so you can make it nice and bright. So that's the two colours for that part. And then the rear section we're going to do in that colour, which is neon pink, available from all good art shops, especially mine. That's a very shameless plug, sorry, I don't sell paint online, I just sell airbrushes and stuff at work. So I like to dabble. You're right, James. I could hit it with the hairdryer in cold, but I've got this weird thing of I don't want to shock the paint, and it's just purely my own theory that to go from so hot to so cold stresses it. It might be. I might be talking utter crap, but that's my theory. So I like to cool it down slowly, especially when it's so virginal. No one wins on my tables. At least they think they think they've got a chance, otherwise they wouldn't come back. Right, so now it's a case of picking out the other side of the pinstripe and trusting that I've cut it right. Again, picking not from the actual point, a bit further back, and then pulling it back so you don't stress the point too much. There's nothing worse than your nice pointy tip that everyone looks at, lifting up or bending or curving and just giving a, because people are really fickle. They look at, if you've got a show with lights and grills on, they look at the lights and grills and then all they're really doing is looking for symmetry on the points, and if they're off or out of whack, everyone's opinion changes instantly. But if they're right, it kind of tricks everyone into thinking that the rest of it's okay. Not that there's nothing wrong with this, obviously. But it's amazing when you look at someone else's artwork, have a look at what you clock first. Otherwise I'm just being strange. It has been said in the past. Although technically I think you lot are weirder because you're watching me watch paint dry. If we're getting technical. I'm being super careful here not to try and hit any of the paint I've just done because it's all really soft, and also not to pull up my pinstripes. So I always have my finger, I always try and ground the finger on the shell to give you like a point to pivot from. I do the same when I'm cutting as well and when I'm drawing. Apparently proper artists do it. Right, now we have the moment of truth. Will the fin section pull out in one go. No. That's actually not as bad as I feared. Christ. Yay! One go. Well, ish. Oh, I was having a slight nightmare over that. A light overhead as well makes life a lot easier because you can see your cut lines a lot clearer. Well, I think you can. See, because that's where my point finish is. So rather than pull it that way and lift the point up, I'm pulling towards it. Sorry, away from it, and it means the point doesn't get lifted up. So in theory it should stick better, so I shouldn't have any, touch wood, any bits of paint underneath my pins. And should have nice sharp points. So you just make sure if you learn to pull where the point's going, go the same direction, it won't tear up. Jeff, when you say cap, do you mean like what? Just a lid, or do you mean the cap, as in the safety cap? Because I don't use the safety cap when I'm doing any sort of detail. I will do it when I'm doing large areas because it atomises better, but when I want fine points I take the cap off. But if you mean the cap on the top of the lid, on top of this, never. Very kind, Teddy, thank you. No, I don't use the lid, no. Actually, I wouldn't even know where they are. Somewhere. Do they come with? They must come with one. I'll have to check the box. That's got me thinking now. Oh yeah, there's a lid. No, I don't use that. Look how shiny it is. All I do at the end of the day when if I finish the session, I just put a little bit of cleaner in there so it doesn't dry out, and it's ready for next time I use it. I suppose I could use a lid. I have spilt the solvent-based silver at the last bit of a couple of paint jobs. So the lid would be useful then, but other than that, I wouldn't use one. Right, so now the rear section is pink. And because there's not a lot of this shell, I'm not going to muck around trying to do any shading in it. I'm just going to do pink. There's enough detail in the middle section. And there's going to be a chrome pinstripe between the two colours anyway. I'm trying to go for sort of a mildly clean looking. I was going to struggle how to get the paint into this fin, because you can see it's not even gone in there, so that could be a lot of paint in there. Let that dry now. The problem I've got now is where I'm trying to go into this section in this part here, I've got to get a lot of paint, which is going to build up the paint around the outsides, which means I can't go as light as I want to, because it's going to have a block here and it's going to look odd. So whatever I do here, I've got to do here as well. So I've got to build up the paint a bit thicker than I would want. And I'll be worried about getting too much on there, really. So I know where the cut lines are, but I don't know from experience what section's needed and what's not, so I'm making sure I do the whole thing, because I don't know, having not got one of these cars, I don't know where the cut line is, so I'm going to make sure I go past it. Like here, I always draw the cut line, so if nothing else, more for reference. I know some of it's going to get removed, some of it's not, but I draw it anyway so that I can get my design mirrored easier. Well, it's turning into a bit of a murder scene, that. It's just trying to make sure I get enough paint in there. And that won't budge to open up. So I don't like building that much paint up, but I've got to do it to get into that fin. It won't show up until I do the white, because then it'll either look patchy or it'll be a different colour and it will look rubbish. So I'm just making sure I've got enough paint in there while getting too much everywhere else. There, we're about there now. But that was a bit of a not ideal. It's trying to make it, because it's such a bright colour, you got to make it, you can't have that section really dark and then this side really bright, so you kind of got to make the whole thing the same now. Otherwise it'll look patchy and it'll look rubbish. Fussy June. Sorry, Fussy Basil. So I don't want this weighing about 2 stone in paint, because it'll take performance out of the car. What I probably should have done in hindsight was cut it off. No, is do that white. Maybe next time. I'm still shocked I've got 14 people watching. I'm quite impressed. Cheers. A nice Schumacher sticker might go really nice there, if that is a bit blotchy. FYI. Because it won't look bad until I do the white. I suppose it looks 20 times worse to me because I'm looking at it the wrong way round. And against a bright light. Oh, it's warm in here. It is 20 degrees. I'm going to take my hood off. Yeah, well, maybe next time. Well, the nose is going to be white, so I suppose a black would look quite cool. Well, does Coke in the UK taste different then? Right, so now I've got to peel out the front. Mark, are we using these side fins? Barge boards, that's what they're called. God, I'm with my brain today. So I've cut them out to do them if you need them. Do you know if you're using them or not? So I mean about having your pinky on the shell at all times, so you're not putting all your pressure through the point of through the craft knife. So it's a way of regulating the pressure you use your knife with. What colour do you want your barge boards? What colour do we want them? Do you want them black or do you want them white? Well, hurry up, I need to know what colour. Otherwise I'm just going to do them white. It's a slightly darker pink there, which is what I was trying to avoid, so I think this was me being fussy. So you can just make it out, it's a slightly different colour on the reflection. It's very, very subtle. That side's alright. The camera doesn't like this colour anyway, it throws the colour out massively. Right, white, thank you very much. See, I told you I had them already cut. Depends which way you're going. So we've got pinstripes to do, which will really pop, make this pop now. Let's give it a bit of a blast of heat. Am I allowed to take the overspray off? Running seriously low on. I ordered 2 bottles of it today. I forgot how low I was. Can't even see how low that is. So there's enough there for 2 coats, I reckon. Big shout out to Mr. Rich Paint, because I've got some more coming tomorrow. Well, it'd be in the post tomorrow. This is tweezer skills. Daniel, make sure you dust on the first coat, hit it with heat, make sure it goes transparent, and then it's a case of just building up the coats. Try cutting out a section in a corner to see what the consistency is like. If you get it too thin, it goes like confetti, and it'll take you hours to trim out sections. Always go too thick. Okay, you might waste a bit of mask, but you'll save yourself an hour, 2 hours, and the frustration. If you have it on too thin, it just it can't sustain its own form. So it just falls apart, a bit like my hairline. When you are back spraying, always watch out for any little blobs of mask. So I'd like to keep my glasses on, and I've just got a bit of a blob right on the lens. So always point it away from your head, or don't look at it directly, because that could have been nasty. Right, I'm hoping there's enough in here. Plenty, he says, hopefully. I don't want to waste it. Right, so this is solvent, so you're not trying to build this up too thickly in one go. Because if you have this on too wet, it will kind of melt everything else around it. you go into Timpson or a shoe repair shop, this is the smell you'll smell. And obviously if you put it on too thick, it kind of pulls and you get like ripples in the paint, in the finish, so it looks rubbish. Oh, don't worry, that's in the pipeline, Scott. I'm thinking about ramps and things I can build around the garden. That's part of the reason to buy a buggy. I've only done like 5 runs with my Schumacher so far. Loved it. Very easy to drive. It had a bit too much understeer at top speed, but it was so wet that I was just shocked that I didn't crash. A little bit more in that head, which is lucky because I haven't got that much left. Now you can back this with black. I don't like to, because this is such a bright shell. I don't want to put a black. Once it's on the track, this is what I was told by the seller. The reflection of the track does the backing for you, so you don't need to. So you're just adding weight to a shell you don't need to. And also, he says that the water-based paint struggles to adhere to the solvent, which, to be honest, I haven't had a problem with. But I don't want to stick it on this because I don't think it needs it. It's just going to dull this front nose section. Yeah, I'm quite pleased with that. Just there, that's the only my slight irritation. Where this is such a thin fin, it's getting enough paint in it without bog washing the sides, which unfortunately I did on this side a little bit, but a little sticker and it'll be alright. But I'm being way too honest. I should just kept my mouth shut. Yes, there were jumpy things as well. I thoroughly enjoyed it. But it was wet. I didn't crash, and third ever go with it, I TQ'd. I TQ'd round 3. So you can see it's the camera's flaring up with the colours in the pink. It is slightly thicker there, so it's catching it's not that obvious to the eye. On the camera it's showing a you can't see the hex. There's hex in there. I said an hour and a half. Sorry, I haven't got the wrist, so I'll do that. I quite like that. Imagine I would say that, wouldn't I? Well, there we are. So that is shell number 4 in 4 days. And that is number 207 for the year. It took me till it was the end of November when I hit 200 last year. So I was ahead of myself by a month, near enough. But obviously now work's drying up because no one's got anything to race. But that's what it is. So last year I did 227. The year before that I did 187. And the year before that I didn't keep any records. So I think this is number 600 and something for the last 3 years. And it's post number 26 of the week, according to Facebook. Right, so thank you very much for watching. I don't know what I'm going to paint next. I have to look, see what box I've got to. I think it's a German box I've got to open, which will be an 8th scale. I shall have a look. But thank you very much for watching. Please like, share, all that bollocks everyone tells you at the end of videos. I'm not bothered if you do or don't. Good afternoon, good evening, and good night.